You're missing the point. There's no throne. There is no version of this where you come out on top.
Surprise.
Today we're going to be finding out what would happen if Loki had prevailed in the attack on New York. There are actually two scenarios I envisioned coming to fruition, with one actually being a lot longer and significantly more interesting than the other. So we're going to start with that one, and at the end of this video I'm going to explain the second, so stick around for that. Our first scenario begins with our heroes failing to close the portal after Tony Stark goes through. In the interest of entertainment, we're also going to pretend that Thanos had the foresight to install some defenses for that station that controls all of his forces. Thus destroying the nuke that Tony gave his life to bring through. In the scenario, Tony Stark is now dead, and the rest of the Avengers are reasonably pretty bummed about that. And they also now have zero hope in regards to defeating Loki. The rest of the Avengers would go down fighting, with the notable exception being Thor, who in spite of the Bifrost still being on the fritz, would probably end up using some sort of Deus Ex Machina to return to Asgard and tell Jad about what a jerkface Loki's being.
Hammer? Hammer?
Yeah, we can tell you're hammered. It's pretty obvious.
In the interest of time, we're gonna skip past the cleanup of the fight and jump to a little bit post Loki's victory. Loki's forces would pretty easily defeat every other military power on Earth, and before we mention it, we are also going to assume that Fury left his Captain Marvel beacon in his other trench coat that day. At this point, Loki is king of Earth. However, as we all know, Loki doesn't really have a plan for ruling, nor actually enjoy it. The only real interest Earth would offer him would be its capacity for creating statues of his likeness. Unfortunately, Loki does have more pressing issues than ruling. Thanos is going to come knocking soon for his stone back, and he's also going to want some interest, a la the Tesseract. Loki knows this, and he has begun to think of a solution.
Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
Let's also do a quick stock check. Loki currently has the Mind Stone, the Space Stone, and would also have just happened upon the Time Stone post-killing of the Ancient One. His next step would be the assembly of a certain gauntlet, and he knows exactly where to find one.
Asgard was supposed to protect us!
I'm not Asgardian.
Loki now has 3 stones and a gauntlet, whilst Thanos possesses no stones and a fidget spinner. By this point, our blue friend Ronan would also see who is more likely to win and swear allegiance to Loki, which gives him Ronan's army and the Power Stone, which he recently looted off of Peter Quill. Gamora would also see the changing tide and offer Loki the location of the Soul Stone in exchange for Thanos' death. Now, Thor will finally come back into play. To extinguish a couple of our already numerous plot holes, let's just say that Malekith had been keeping him and the rest of Asgard busy during all those previous events. And after Malekith's defeat, the Asgardian army is now engaging Loki's. During this time, Odin and Thor pursue Loki onto the planet he was just tracked landing on. Red Skull would do his usual greeting.
Odin, son of Bor. Thor, son of Odin. Loki, son of Laufey.
And Thor would probably end up making an attempt to talk Loki down.
To give up this poisonous dream! You come home.
Loki would pretend to give up, and then proceed to stab both Thor and Odin as per his usual. We'd also see the usual events on Vormir play out, with Odin playing the role of Gamora and Black Widow in this case. You know what, let's actually make this an even more alternate universe and say that Joss Whedon is still directing. So after Loki pushes Odin off of the cliff, he would make a quick little quip.
Loki, you're never...
What
You didn't finish!
I'm not gonna lie, Marvel humor usually does please my primate brain, but Age of Ultron really did not age well in retrospect. But continuing on, my headcanon is that Loki would use the Soul Stone to locate the Reality Stone, since I feel as though it hasn't really gotten to play an interesting role at all. Then, just as Loki acquires the Reality Stone, Thanos would show up and attempt to take the gauntlet with all 6 stones from him.
Good grief, he's naked!
They would tussle for a bit, with Thanos eventually getting the upper hand. Just before snapping his fingers, he'd hit Loki with his signature line.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Ah, wait, wrong line. Before snapping his fingers, Thanos would state,
I am inevitable.
and his fingers would snap. But there would be no effect. The trickster Loki used one of his signature tricks. Wait, actually, I mean illusions.
Mr. F.
Loki would reveal himself to have the real gauntlet and would snap his fingers. With that, we're going to exit the timeline. What do you guys think would happen next? Or do you think that none of this would happen and that I'm an idiot? Let me know in the comments. And before I forget, let's talk about that second scenario I mentioned earlier. There are Loki show spoilers ahead. You have been warned. Just before Loki would prevail in the Battle of New York, TVA agents would arrive, bonk Loki, and reset the timeline.
Wow.
See ya. I told you that one was short. Thanks for watching.